Hi guys, it's
Lauren Daisy.
welcome back to my channel. So today's video is part 2 of my 6-part series, which is ranking all of the Pretty Little Liars love interests, and then the final part will be ranking literally every single couple that has ever been. There is 77 of them, so that's going to be a very fun video. But today we are focusing just on Spencer and her love interest. Let's just get straight into it. Where is she? There she is. So we're going to kick it off with number 10. And at number 10, we have Spencer and Ian, which probably doesn't come as a shock to anybody if they aren't your number 10. Then I'm very curious to find out who is your worst of them all.
Did you like that?
We are introduced to Ian in season 1, and their kind of relationship thing, entanglement if you will, occurs before the show starts, so we only ever see it in flashback. So Ian is obviously quite the villain of season 1, probably the main villain of season 1 aside from Expose A, and he is Melissa's boyfriend that was also interested in Spencer. So at the time I believe she would have been 15 or 14, something like that, which is proper icky. And he would have been, I don't know how old is Melissa compared to Spencer. So it's a 7-year age difference between Melissa and Spencer. Then Ian would have been like, because I think Ian and Melissa are in the same school year, so Ian would have been 22 kissing someone that was 15. Ian was very icky. He was just such a predator. He was so creepy, still made Spencer feel uncomfortable even when he came back as the coach, even when he was engaged to her sister and was literally going to be the father of her sister's baby. He was still making Spencer feel uncomfortable. And then he also was kissing Ali. Ali was obviously having sex that summer, we know, because she told Cece she thought she might be pregnant. So did that mean she was sleeping with Ian as well? Like, we never really got confirmation on if they were or they weren't. So big dodgy vibes, big dodgy vibes all round. And then he took, I mean, this isn't about Ali, but he took Ali to like Hilton Head. So yeah, just super dodgy. Definitely bottom of the barrel. That was an easy number 10 for me. And then he literally tried to kill her. So that's just the cherry on top of the cake. So then at number 9, we have Spencer and Colin. So Colin was the guy that she hooked up with in, I think, season 5, when she went to London.
Seeing a play at the Royal Shakespeare Company is on my bucket list.
I didn't know 18-year-olds had bucket lists. Is that an American thing?
He was fine. I think he's at the bottom because he was only in 1 episode and he was kind of dull. He was obviously Melissa and Ren's roommate, so he must have been older. So again, weird. And yeah, just a bit dull really. Then at number 8, we have Spencer and Johnny. He was the artist that moved into the barn, and I've got him loaded down on this list. He appeared in a few episodes and he seemed quite sweet.
Back on the college track?
Yep, apparently the Hastings are very well connected, and I have a third cousin twice removed who works at Colby College.
Basically tricked Spencer into doing something illegal. I know it was only graffiti, but still. She, you know, did not need that with everything else that she had going on at that time. And I guess he was kind of a bad influence. He was kind of a good and bad influence, kind of similar to Riley that Aria was with. You know, he was fun and he kind of brought Spencer out of her shell a little bit and was what she needed at the time, but ultimately I don't think they would have worked. I think they were just too different, which sometimes, you know, opposites can attract. So a little editor's note just while I was editing this, also when they like kind of like got together, kissed, whatever, that was when she was still with Toby. So I feel like that also marks him down a little bit, the fact that he kind of pursued her when he knew that she was struggling in her relationship that she was in. So yeah, but then I don't know, looking back I feel like I've kind of been a bit harsh maybe on Johnny, and also maybe a little bit on Colin as well. I don't know, maybe if I was to do it again I would put Johnny a little bit higher. I don't know, but this is the list as it stands now. I can't change it now, but I feel like Spencer had some pretty good contenders. That's why her list is like a bit
it was kind of harder to judge than like Arya's. Because if you see my Arya video, like she does not have a lot of good contenders going. So it's definitely much easier to do her list, whereas Spencer is like, there's still quite a few good contenders on her list, so they were kind of harder to rank. But
and then at number 7, I have Spencer and Dean. So Dean, he left and then had a bit of a reappearance. It was definitely more one-sided towards Dean, and again, was inappropriate. I feel like that is such a theme with the PLL relationships, is they are always inappropriate and always problematic. But he was her AA sponsor.
I just want to grab you and kiss you. And the fact that you have a boyfriend isn't the problem. But the problem is I don't care.
This is more one that if they had met when she was older, I think, and had met under normal circumstances, not as her sponsor, they could have been really cute. Honestly, I liked their chemistry. I thought he was really sweet, he seemed very nice, and they seemed to get on really well. And I think, yeah, had they been older when they'd met, or maybe he had kind of just been her sponsor and no kind of weird him starting to catch feelings thing, and then he had returned, you know, post time jump, and they kind of reconnected, or she bumped into him somewhere, and obviously she's fine now, so she doesn't need a sponsor, he wouldn't be her sponsor anymore. That could have worked. He was cute. At 6, I feel like this could be a bit of a hot take. I have Spencer and Ren, and I feel like it could be a hot take for 2 reasons. Similarly to in my previous video of Arya, where I placed Arya and Ezra. It could either be because people think he's far too high on the list, because he's pretty dodgy vibes, or it could be 2 because people think he's too far down on the list, because he was one of the more established relationships for Spencer.
It's okay. Aristotle is exactly where he should be.
Ren is introduced in season 1, and he is Melissa's fiance. So he's also a doctor. He is like trained to be a doctor. I think he's like in residency, which would mean he's already done med school, right? So now he's actually training in a hospital, which again puts him as older. If Melissa is, say, 22 when about 22, 23 when we first meet her in season 1, that again puts Ren about 20, if he was already done with med school, 24, 25. I think that I might be a little bit off there. Obviously a 10-year age gap, or give or take, is not good. Also perming on your fiance sister, also not good. But not as bad as Ian. Well, not until the end anyway. Again, I think this is one where they really ruined Ren's character. I think obviously he shouldn't have been trying to flirt with Spencer, but he did have kind of sweet tendencies to him. I think he could have been a good character in just a friend way and just the helping the girls out way. And then yeah, it just obviously grew very weird. We obviously all know his fate and how he kind of ended up, so he definitely loses points for basically just becoming a villain. I know a lot of people really liked the Ren is A theory. I feel like I need to go back and read some theories about that, because I was never really convinced, aside from when he drew the red coat. I'm going off topic, but anyway. But ultimately, I think they did have good chemistry. I think they did have some sweet moments, and if it was in a different scenario and they were at the same age, or you know, maybe again it's just such an age gap, but maybe if they had met later in life, you know, things maybe could have been different. I do kind of like Ren in the books. He still obviously is a little bit dodgy in the books, but I don't know, he's very suave in the books. They do have some sweet moments. I can see why people definitely like them together, but I just couldn't put him that high up because of the weird way that they meet and the age gap, and ultimately obviously he turns out to not be a good guy. So at number 5, breaking into the top 5, we have Spencer and Andrew. They didn't even kiss or anything, but obviously Spencer was kind of going through it when she invited Andrew over and they played like strip study session or whatever it was they were playing.
isn't it? Holy crap, it's Emily Fields.
Relax. You're not her type. Hi. Should I have brought more cupcakes?
So not a great foundation for anything to happen between them, but I thought they were very similar. I thought they had good chemistry. Their kind of intellectual banter, and obviously being on the same academic team, both being incredibly smart. I think they looked cute together. I think they played off each other very well. And I think they definitely had potential. He was the right age for her, which seems to be a rarity. And yeah. So at number 4, I have Spencer and Marco. Marco was introduced in, I think it's season 7. And he's a cop at the Rosewood Police Department.
She even graduated from charm school.
Charm school? That's like a thing?
Yeah. Well, they don't call it that anymore. I think it's called finishing school.
And he's investigating the murder of Archer Dunhill. Well, the disappearance murder of Archer Dunhill. I think they were a good couple. Obviously, Spencer makes a lot of mistakes, and so does he. I think had Spencer obviously not actually been part of the murder and all that stuff, they could have developed quite a nice relationship. It was a very mature one. You know, he felt like a real serious contender for a kind of long-term, mature, serious relationship. And he seemed to care about her a lot. And I thought him bringing her favorite food, like her favorite takeaway, was a really sweet moment. I thought them playing ping pong together when he was kind of showing her where he grew up, again, a very sweet moment. And then obviously towards the end, she really screws him over. So yeah, but I do think they definitely have potential, and I thought they did have some really cute moments. So in the top 3, we're getting to another potentially hot take, and that is Spencer and Caleb. I personally am not a fan of them in the way that we got them.
Yeah, I've been pretty distracted the last few days too.
I might be slightly distracted.
Him and Hannah were just so good together, and they just had so much history. He was her first. She loved him. He was the great love of her life, and that was obvious for anyone to see. Obviously they'd broken up, but I don't think that changed that. It seemed very clear that when Spencer asked for her permission, she did not really want to give it for her to explore things with Caleb, and it obviously hurt her a lot. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that it changed Spencer and Hannah's relationship. Their relationship after that felt weird, and it just really put a weird spin and sadness on their friendship. And because everyone knew ultimately that Hannah and Caleb would find their way back to each other, but obviously it meant breaking Spencer's heart and damaging her friendship with Hannah. So I just didn't like it. But if you take all that stuff out of it, I do actually think that Spencer and Caleb were a good match, and I thought they were very sweet together. Obviously they have their scene in Barcelona, I think it was, and they do have some really sweet moments together. He obviously cared for her a lot, and she truly loved him. And I think the whole thing was just very sad, because as much as she liked him, he didn't like her as much. I think that's a shame. I kind of honestly saw their relationship, or their kind of chemistry, towards the end of season 5, I think it was. They had a couple of weird, not weird interactions, but like the girls came over to like his apartment and were asking him for help, and then they left and Spencer stayed and they had coffee. Obviously she saves him from the kiln, and she also says something to him along the lines of like, you're like perfect boyfriend material or something, or they should like bottle your perfect boyfriend essence or something like that. There were a couple of moments where I was kind of like, is this a bit of a thing, like, or could this be a thing? But I was like, surely they would never go there. And then to my surprise, come the time jump, they went there. It's kind of reminiscent of Rachel and Joey, that kind of relationship that the writers put in purely to make you kind of uncomfortable, or to make you see that sometimes people get together when they're not really supposed to, or yada yada yada. So I think it was a little unnecessary, especially because the lies friendship is something that is so core to the show and is the thing that I really love about the show the most. So to see that damaged for the sake of the Spencer and Caleb ship, I didn't enjoy. But I did think they had cute moments together, and had maybe Spencer and Caleb gotten together but it wasn't that serious with Hannah, maybe like had, you know, Hannah and Caleb broken up very early on, or had she not forgiven him for working with Jenna, you know, and they hadn't really been that close, I think maybe it could have worked so far down the line that Hannah genuinely wouldn't have cared anymore. But because he was the big love of her life, her first, and all this stuff, they just went through so much together. They are one of the best couples on the show, easily. You're gonna see where they rank in my list of everyone. But because we saw so many special moments with those two, it just made you feel like you cannot ship Caleb and Spencer. Like, it would just be wrong. So I think that was ultimately their downfall. So stepping away from all that, I do think they could have been a cute couple, and they did have sweet moments. So then number 2, my runner-up. Now, again, maybe not a hot take, but maybe an odd take. Because I showed my boyfriend these lists, and he kind of gave his 2 cents on who he thought should be higher than other people and stuff. And he was a bit shocked at this number 2, which I get, because it does seem like a bit of a random choice, being that they weren't together for very long. I think it was only a few episodes, but I've hung on to those few episodes, and every time I will rewatch PLL, I think, justice for Alex. Spencer and Alex, my number 2. I loved them. I still love them.
What was that for?
I can't tell you. It's a secret.
And when I rewatch season 1, I still think they're adorable. I still think they had some of the best chemistry this show has ever seen. And I'm not even being dramatic about that. The whole idea of, I didn't even introduce Alex. So Alex was a character introduced in season 1. I think he's in it for maybe 3 or 4 episodes. And Spencer meets him because he works at the tennis club where her family spend a lot of time, and obviously she plays tennis. And I loved their kind of whole thing of Spencer trying to convince him that she isn't this evil rich person that looks down on everyone that works there and all this stuff. And he gives her a chance, and I think they're very sweet. I think it was a shame that obviously and all that meddling and her obsession with Toby and all this stuff, kind of being the villain, kind of got in the way of them being actually able to spend time together at homecoming, because that was so cute when they were getting ready for homecoming and he wanted to pay for his ticket and he like all this stuff, and it was just so cute. And it seemed like even though he didn't want to go to the tennis camp, I think it was tennis or something else maybe, she like said, oh my god, you're so good, you should go for it, you know, like kind of encouraged him. And he did the same for her, and I thought they were just so sweet together. Great chemistry, and looked so cute together. And yeah, I just thought, even though it was such a short relationship, they had such great moments, and it was such a shame that A ultimately ruined it by applying to the program for Alex anyway, and making it look like Spencer did it and was trying to force it, when that's obviously not what happened. But she couldn't explain that she didn't do it. He didn't believe that she didn't do it, so they parted ways. But if Alex had come back in past like the time jump, I would have loved it. I would have been all for it. I would absolutely loved it. For him to come back at all, yeah, I love them. And this may like, yeah, it may seem like such a random one, but I stand by it. I thought they were great, genuinely. Like, you will see where they rank in the list of everyone, and you may be a little surprised, because honestly, I loved him. 10 out of 10. He deserved better. So then at the number 1 spot, who could I have other than Toby Cavanaugh? Of course he's at the top. Toby is introduced in season 1. He's actually introduced in the first episode, but he's played by somebody else. And then obviously we see him as the Toby that we know after that, played by Keegan Allen.
To be honest, it was really fun to kick your ass at Scrabble.
I was not expecting that.
Me neither.
He starts off as Spencer, obviously suspecting him of being dodgy. Ali led them to believe that he was dodgy. But I just love their beginning of how she starts to realise that he isn't like that, and she starts to see who he really is and tutors him, and they have that whole kind of like inside thing of they speak French because she taught him French. And I think they are one of the most wholesome and sweet couples on this show. I absolutely love them. I will never forgive Marlene for their ending, and because they deserved to be happy. They deserved to be happy and to find each other again. And they just became a victim of the writing on that show. But I absolutely love them. I couldn't have anyone else at the top. Obviously, just such sweet moments when she buys him the truck, when he makes her the chair. You know, obviously we do have the blip where he was on the A-team, and that whole thing is heartbreaking, but also gave us some of the best scenes in that show. When I tell you, when Toby turned around at Radley, when that hoodie turned around and it was Toby, my jaw was on the floor. That's some of the best TV I've ever seen. It was so good. It was so good. And then it obviously turned out that he was doing it for Spencer, but we got the whole, you know, and is he dead? And he's not dead. Like, oh, so much drama, such good TV. And it wasn't in a way that was irredeemable. You know, like how you have Ezra in his book, irredeemable. But this gave us that shock value and that drama without actually ruining his character and ruining their relationship, because ultimately it was to try and get more info and, you know, about his mum and help Spencer and everything combined, right? So yeah, absolutely love them. 10 out of 10. So good. I'm not going to spoil where they rank on my huge list. You'll have to watch the video for that. But I just love them. Spoby forever. To this day. And I stand by that to this day. I loved them at the time and I love them now. And just such sweet moments. And when they play Scrabble together, that very first like night when they're at the motel and she wears his top and he wears the pajama bottoms, and they play Scrabble, and I just, and then he gives her the Scrabble necklace with the S. I always wanted one of those. So cute. I love it. I love them. I love them so much. They just look perfect together. They fit perfectly. They just have such good chemistry, such good scenes. Just seem to genuinely care about each other. There was no snide comments. There was no going behind each other's backs. Well, maybe a little bit. Spencer, she wobbles a little bit when he becomes a cop. That whole thing I didn't really care for so much. Oh, I love them. And when he says that he was building the house for her, I cry every time. Like, I wasn't building it for Yvonne, I was building it for you. These two. Anyway. So that is my ranking of all of Spencer's love interests. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? I don't really know who else you could have at the top or the bottom, to be fair. I think those are pretty sturdy, but if you have someone else, please do let me know. I would love to hear about that. I will see you guys in my next video of this series, which will be Hannah's relationships. So yeah, there will also be a playlist of all these videos so you can watch every single one. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next one. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.